Hi everybody and welcome to the Sportfish Spring Spectacular 2025. My name's Shorrock and I'm one of the ambassadors for Veniard. I'm going to tie you a simple but deadly emerger midge today using just a handful of materials. We're going to use some of the sheer 40-0 in black, some UV crystal flash in pearl, and just 2 or 3 CDC feathers. So this is a pattern that I use when I can't see what the fish are actually taking. This is one of my go-to patterns and it's been really productive over the last 3 or 4 seasons for me. So it's definitely one when we finish the tying, you need to get these materials and get some tied up for your boxes. So let's jump straight into it. Right, so in the vise we've got a size 20 Partridge K4AY SE. And the first thing I'm going to do is come in with some sheer 40-0 in black. So I'm going to apply a bit of wax to my thread. I'm going to tie this on about an eye length behind the eye with 3 or 4 turns, and then going to cut off my tag end and then going to tie back up to my tying point. So then next thing I'm going to do is take 3 small CDC feathers and I'm going to align the tips. Now if you've got really good quality CDC you'd probably get away with 2. But on this instance, I'm just going to use 3. So I'm going to measure those against the hook. So I want them about a hook length. And I'm going to tie that on right on top of the shank and tie down with 3 or 4 really tight turns. I'm going to lift my butt section up and I'm going to cut it on an angle. This will help me build the taper that I want in the body. So I'm going to counter spin my thread to flatten it. And then I'm going to tie down. I'm going to continue right into the bend. So all the while I'm counter spinning my thread to keep it flat. I'm going to come back up. And then I'm going to jump right in front of this CDC. So I'm going to pull the CDC up and I'm going to put a thread down right tight into that CDC so it stands vertically from the hook. So then I'm going to skip back. I'm just going to check my body. I'm just going to smooth this little bump out that I've got. So it's worth taking your time. Just make sure you get a nice smooth taper. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do is come in with some superfine dubbing in black. I'm going to put a tiny bit on this. I've probably not even got a centimetre going on. So I want to make sure it's nice and tight and quite thin. And I'm just going to dub a little bump at the back of that wing. And that's going to help prop our crystal flash up in the next process. So I'm going to take a piece of the crystal flash. I'm going to pull that under my thread onto the top of the shank. I'm going to put a turn on top and then I'm going to twist these to the side and then put a figure of 8 to lock them in, and then I'm going to just cut out that little bit of CDC that's in the way. So I'm going to pull the tips back and I'm going to put a turn or a couple of turns on top to lock them in position. And you see what that does is it just creates a V, and you can see that that dubbing has helped prop those up from the body of the fly. So the last thing to do really is just to put another thin dubbing noodle of superfine black just to neaten this up. So just a couple of turns behind, and then I'm going to lift that wing, and I'm going to come in front and tie right back into that wing just to make sure that it sits nicely at a right angle. So I'm going to need a little bit more dubbing here to finish off. So again, just pulling the wing back and just making sure it's tight into it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to apply a bit more wax. I don't tend to use varnish on my dries. I just put a nice healthy amount of wax on and do a double whip finish. So I'm going to apply some wax. And then we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. And then just for extra security, I'm going to put another one in. So and then we can cut a tag end away. And then all we've got left to do is just cut this crystal flash. So you want to cut it probably just short of the bend. So that's the finished fly. So as I say, really easy to tie. So get some tied up for your boxes. Thanks for watching.